What is going on, Notre Dame football fans? I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel. We're standing outside of Notre Dame Stadium exactly 3 weeks until the Fighting Irish kick off their 2024 season against the Texas A&M Aggies. We watched the 9th Notre Dame fall camp practice of the year. Jack, I saw something pretty interesting with the offensive line. Sam Pendleton, the sophomore, and Anthony Knapp, the true freshman, getting reps at left guard and left tackle, respectively. This is only, of course, a few days after Joe Rudolph kind of set the foundation for what this offensive line is going to be. So what do you make of what we saw today?
I think they're just trying some stuff out. I think if we see the same thing, I believe we get one more fall camp practice after this. If we see the same thing the next time we're out there, then I think it is a little bit more noteworthy. But it is still a little noteworthy because, I mean, from everything we've heard and seen from this O-line, like Sam Pendleton and Anthony Knapp, I think are a couple of the really promising young players here. Knapp, I was talking to Jalen Snead after practice, and he was like, yeah, he's been really, really good. Probably a little on the lighter side right now. Joe Rudolph said he's hovering around 300 pounds, but I think he's listed at 290. But still, I mean, some guys just have that nastiness to them, and I think Anthony Knapp has it. With Pendleton, we've seen him repping at center. They clearly like him as a blocker, but he hadn't been snapping all too well when we've seen him. So seeing him with the first team at left guard, where Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler have been competing, that's certainly interesting. But again, I think we need to see it again to really make something of it.
Yeah, we've seen 8 days of what we believe the Notre Dame offensive line is going to be. And then, of course, Charles Jagasaw gets injured kind of in the middle of that. And you see Tosh Baker go to that left tackle position, Emil Wagner stay on the right. By the way, the right side of the offensive line was as you would expect it to be. Go to blueandgold.com for everything that we're seeing on that side. But it was just one of those shake-up days, and it's a long camp, and I think Joe Rudolph just said, hey, these guys are pretty good at what they do. We're going to kind of throw them in there and let them do it. And then Pat Coogan was working at center. So if that doesn't tell you that it was a shake-up day right there, I don't know what does. Because I think there's a lot of belief that if something were to happen to Ashton Craig at the center position, you kind of want a guy that's experienced, has been in it. I know he hasn't played center in actual football games for Notre Dame, but they kind of believe they can kind of slot him in there. So we were seeing some of those reps today. Just kind of some interesting things with the offensive line. Jack, you were watching the defense. We'll get back to one more tidbit on the offense, but some pretty cool one-on-one type of situations that we haven't seen in fall camp to this point.
Yeah, linebacker, running back, blitz reps, one-on-one, full live. And the biggest standout, first of all, I thought the running backs in general won the drill, which will surprise me a little bit given like how good we've seen and heard the linebackers are at blitzing. But pass protection has been a point of emphasis for these running backs, and it's really showing. Jadarian Perez had a couple good reps against Jack Kaiser. Jalen Snead beat Jeremiah Love with like a dip and rip move, I think, around the edge. Just kind of dusted past him. Love called him out. Next rep, stonewalled him. I thought that was really impressive on both their ends. A lot of good competition. The biggest standout, though, Aeneas Williams, the freshman out of Hannibal, Missouri. He's so strong. We've heard that he benches 400 pounds. I mean, I believe that. I don't see any reason not to.
Bowling ball type of player, man. Like Maurice Jones-Drew back in the day. Like not to that thickness extent.
He's bigger than Maurice Jones-Drew.
He's built.
Yeah, no,
in a good way.
He is a well-built dude. He's smart. He can do a lot of different things. Dylan McCullough said last week or a couple weeks ago, I can't keep track of time, but he said that it would be malpractice to ask running backs to pass protect in their first game against Texas A&M. But down the line this season, I think we could see Aeneas Williams get a lot of playing time in some of those third down packages, and I think he's a player they really like long term.
And that's an interesting thing because if you're coming away with these takeaways and Dylan McCullough gets to see it every single day, he kind of laid out more than any other position coach that we've talked to that I'm looking for guys to put into roles. And he's only looking at 5 scholarship players who can kind of carve a role. It seems like Aeneas Williams is doing that. So you mentioned Jalen Snead and Jeremiah Love. Maybe Jalen Snead won that first pass protection rep because Jeremiah Love got the best of him in a little one-on-one ball carrying drill. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, they kind of started off with the drill that's not really meant for much evaluating. It's just like running back or ball carrier and tackler lining up. Probably
it's like a tone setter. It's like a low man wins.
Probably
type.
like 5 yards away from each other, and it's just get the pads popping, set the tone for the rest of practice. Love just trucked Jalen Snead, ran him over. Snead still brought him to the ground, but Love won that rep pretty handily. I mean, he has gotten so much stronger since we saw him last year, or even in the spring. He's had a really good offseason. We've said this over and over again, wrote about it for blueandgold.com and in Blue and Gold Illustrated. He's going to have a crazy season. And so that's the gist of what we saw this morning. Is a lot of good competition, especially with the running backs and linebackers.
I'll finish with the offense on the quarterbacks because we got to speak to them today. Definitely go to blueandgold.com to check out some of the stories that we're going to write off of those guys. I think we saw Riley Leonard air it out from a media perspective more than we have in the previous 4 practices that we've got to see. Again, we saw a full practice earlier, the very first practice of fall camp on July 31st. Didn't see a whole lot of throwing the ball down the field today. It was routes on air, but we saw Riley Leonard pushing the ball downfield, 50-yard type of throws. I thought that he was the most accurate on those. Steve Angeli was probably number 2. Go figure. That's number 1 and 2 on the depth chart. Those guys look really good throwing the ball. But even though they were airing it out on some of those, there's still been a heavy emphasis, Jack, on in-goal routes. I mean, I'm not even talking red zone routes. I'm talking they're lining up at the 10, they're lining up at the 5. A lot of different crossing, a lot of different scheming and concepts. I think Mike Denbrock is all over that. He's in these guys' ears like, no, you need to run here. I've said this time and time again on these videos. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm honing in on that because it's important, and we're seeing a lot of that in practice. One more thing on the defense, Jack.
Yeah, one more thing on the defense. Adon Shuler, they were running kind of their base package, the 4-3, bit of an underlook with like Jalen Seed, the rover lining up on the edge. Adon Shuler was lining up with the first team, and I think every rep Watts was out there. Adon Shuler was also out there, so he may have the upper hand right now with the competition against Rod Hurd the second, as we got to finish this up quickly. But one more note on Shuler. He's been lining up, whenever we've kind of seen him with the first team, he's been lining up a lot near the line of scrimmage in kind of like a hybrid linebacker safety role. I think he's gotten a lot stronger over the offseason. They like him a lot down there in the box, and I think we're going to see him a lot in that role early this season.
All right, yeah, like Jack said, it's a little windy out here. It's going to be windy in there for at least a couple of the games that you guys are going to go to this fall, so par for the course. As I'm wearing this golf outfit, I would say par for the course. That's Jack Sobel. That's Jack Sobel. I'm Tyler Horka. And like he said, we got one more of these, so keep it tuned to this Blue and Gold YouTube channel for one more practice report coming next week.